Ladies and gentlemen, this is phenomenal news. President Trump is giving $500 billion for direct payment to taxpayers and $500 billion in loans for businesses. That's in addition to invoking the Defense Production Act. I'll read you the New York Times. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, he's getting praise from Democrats in Congress, from CNN. I mean, this is the usual. He's getting the usual scorn from a great portion of the media in the Democratic Party. But you're seeing that Democrats are actually giving him praise for this. So first details of Trump's economic package includes $500 billion for taxpayers. The Trump administration on Wednesday broadened the government's response and spelled out the first details of a $1 trillion economic package, asking Congress for an infusion of $500 billion for direct payments to taxpayers and $500 billion in loans for businesses. That's including potentially more than $1,000 for American citizens. So people are getting $1,000 or more. HUD has suspended evictions and foreclosures. And, so President Trump invoked a seldom used law that allows the government to press American industry into service to ramp up production of medical supplies. He said he would send two military hospital ships to New York and California. He also directed federal agents to suspend all foreclosures and evictions until the end of April as the full economic toll of the crisis began to set in around the world. And he agreed with Canada to stop all non-essential traffic across the northern border. So it's really interesting. This is testing President Trump, and he's not only passing the test, but he's doing exactly what he has to do, and he's doing what a Democrat would have done. So, Democrats really can't say anything. After weeks of playing down, Mr. Trump appeared Wednesday to fully embrace the scope of the calamity. All right, 1 million, look, we can go into it. 3 million Democrats risked everything, apparently, to vote. So when it's something they want, it's like, no problem. 3 million Democrats in Illinois, Florida, and Arizona touched doorknobs, their faces, shook hands with people, did everything that they would do normally, and voted, and touched ballots, and waited in line with hundreds of thousands of people. Gee, I think 3 million plus Democrats is more than 10 people. But then they say, well, you have to shut down businesses. So I don't get that. That is the definition of hypocrisy right there. The definition. So here, now it's our time, Mr. Trump said at a news conference at the White House. We must sacrifice together because we're all in this together and we will come through together. So these are inspiring words. President Trump is doing what he has to do. You look at other catastrophes of this nature, if you look at other events similar to this, I'm not going to get into the specific, infectious disease. I'm not going to get into that. But you look into how President Obama reacted to several of these instances, and you look at the number of Americans whose lives were lost. People ignore that. It's unbelievable. You can just look at the way the media dealt with those events. Drastically different. Now, you have an economic stimulus package of $1 trillion. And if you look at the market sell-off, look at the stock market. Why is there a sell-off? Are there any fundamental reasons? Are stocks overvalued? Are industries overvalued? Are stocks overvalued? Is there a bubble? Is there a tech bubble? Is there a real estate bubble? No, there isn't. Up until recently, the economy was just fine. We had record low unemployment. We had 6 million jobs created in 3 years. Now, of course, people are getting hit really hard. I think 4 states choosing to shut down restaurants and bars, I think that is absolutely, just absolutely absurd. People weren't going to restaurants anyway in California and Los Angeles. So why you would then force people to go bankrupt or be on the brink of homelessness, because a great many people who work in restaurants, great many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. That's another thing. Bernie Sanders suspended his Facebook ads. He sent an email without asking for a donation to his campaign. He's pretty much done tomorrow or the next day. He's dropped out already. He's not going to get any concessions from the Democrats who are just using him to funnel votes back into the Democratic Party. When they lose again with Hillary Clinton's going to be the nominee. She might be Biden's vice president, or she could be the vice president. Who knows? I don't think she'd ever accept a vice president position long term. But if she's vice president, Biden, a month later, I'm not, I'd rather not run. Let her become president on the centennial of the 19th Amendment. Who cares how it happens? The whole thing has been a charade and theatrical performance. I keep saying that. Nobody gets it. Or I should say, the people who watch my channel get it, but nobody sees. Everybody thinks that this is not a theatrical performance. Clinton has been running since the second she lost in 2016 in November. And I wrote in February of 2017, Clinton 2020 is a reality. Get ready for 8 years of Trump. She's just waiting for Bernie to be out of the picture. Bernie Sanders has been a thorn in her side, but at the end of the day, he plays ball at the Democratic Party. At the end of the day, he keeps talking about a living wage. Well, you're not going to force businesses. You're not going to force businesses to do anything. So it's kind of like the AOC mentality of capitalism. Up to 100,000 jobs. It wasn't just 20,000 jobs. It wasn't just 40,000. It was up to 100,000, according to USA Today. Would have been located within her district or surrounding districts, but with Amazon, the Amazon headquarters. But she was focused on taxes. She was focused on tax revenue. Even Andrew Cuomo was like, oh my God, what are you doing? Democrats ran their own study and said they would get a lot of tax revenue, or hundreds of millions eventually in tax revenue. But the whole point was the economic activity. How does AOC justify that? Oh, well, they weren't going to pay taxes, but everyone else was going to make money. Food trucks, dry cleaners, restaurants. Think of how many, because the Amazon headquarters was supposed to be for 40,000 people, not just 20,000 or 25,000. It was big enough for 40,000 people, and that would have generated enough economic activity for 100,000 people in the area. But again, Bernie's mentality always is, well, it has to be a living wage, and it's unfair, and there's, we live in the biggest economy ever, and why is there economic inequality? What policy? Medicare for all is not going to give people jobs. So, and there's $6,700 in out-of-pocket Medicare costs for 45 million Americans, depending on if you're on Medicare. There's either $2,000 or $6,700 that's for 45 million people, not for 320 million people. So you have people on Twitter saying, "Oh, well, Medicare for all would have covered everything." It's like, no, even Medicare now, which is only for 45 million people, there's out-of-pocket costs depending on the plan. But my point is, what was Bernie Sanders' plan for economic growth? Did you ever hear Bernie talk about economic growth? How is he going to, increase gross domestic product? How is he going to ensure that unemployment was at a record low? How is he going to get 6 million jobs in 3 years like President Trump did? He would have certainly done what Trump is doing, maybe even more with the stimulus package. Okay. But what did Bernie Sanders, what was his plan to ensure that people would work, would find employment? He kept focusing, $15 minimum. There's no such thing as a living wage. You can't, there is, but you cannot enforce a living wage, because then businesses say, okay, well, if $15 minimum wage, that's a different story. I'm not talking about that. If you look at that I actually, increasing the minimum wage, I agree with. Okay, I do agree with. But I'm talking about if you focus only on that, it's still not a living wage. You're still not going to make enough for a family if you're just focused on that. Where are the jobs that Bernie Sanders was going to help create? The economic activity, the growth, the economic growth, the macroeconomic growth, the wealth. Household median income is up. How do his policies equate to wealth? We understand. I get how Bernie was focused on equality. But what does it matter if there's a billionaire that exists, two of them who ran against Bernie? What does it matter if everyone else is making money, household median income is up, record low unemployment, 6 million jobs created, 300,000 manufacturing jobs created under Trump? What does that matter? Who cares if there are billionaires? The entire paradigm is skewed towards this Twitter-friendly, mindset. Well, it's not fair. It's not fair. Well, but the whole point is generating wealth. You want a good economy. So which one of Bernie's policies would create economic growth? Medicare for all? No. You're talking about tens of thousands of people who would lose their job in the insurance industries, health insurance industries. Okay. And then you're talking about doctors and hospitals. Who knows how Medicare for all would affect them? Very likely in a negative manner. But how would his policies promote economic growth? The same economic growth that Trump was experiencing in his economy before this fiasco. I guess that's my long-winded question for Bernie Sanders supporters or Bernie's campaign. Whatever. Not really a question to them. It's more of a critique. This is one of the reasons he lost. In 2016, he wasn't a media creation. In 2016, he talked also about foreign policy. President Trump is bringing home Americans. Nobody's talking about that. That's what drives me. That's the main reason I love Trump. He's bringing home Americans. And his economy is great. Up until recently, but that's not his fault. And everybody knows it's not his fault. And he's doing what he has to do. And even CNN has praised him. There's one of the few favorable articles in CNN. Just read a couple Democrats you never thought would praise Trump. They're praising Trump right now. But what he's done is increase. There's record low Black and Latino unemployment. Okay. Now, the unemployment rate nationally is at a record low. I don't know if it's still going to be at a record low because of everything going on. But how would Bernie's policies have led to? So a Green New Deal? So you're talking about, there aren't that many Green New Deal jobs. Like, if there were, there would be an economic incentive to do away with fossil fuels. There isn't at the moment. So you have a Green New Deal. Bernie, he wanted to ban fracking. Okay, a lot of these things also, when I was on the left, I'm like, oh, they're great. But then I never thought about them. So if Bernie's policies, like the Democratic Party knows they can never adopt Bernie Sanders' policies because they know it would lead to immediate economic crisis. You want a Green New Deal legislation or resolution? Democrats wouldn't even vote in the Senate for the resolution because they were petrified. 4 Democrats voted against it. How many Rust Belt jobs would be lost? How many jobs in the energy sector would be lost? Okay. So, which policy would increase economic growth? You have President Trump, you had 6 million jobs created in 3 years. With President Obama, 8.9 million jobs created in 8 years. 6 million in 3 years, pretty good. The link is below to that. GDP, far better on average than President Obama's. Like, look, you take it, okay, the next couple of months, the next quarter, yeah, you're going to see perhaps negative, obviously, you'll probably see negative growth, but not 2 consecutive quarters. With the stimulus and with people just holding on to their money and then injecting and pumping the money, stock market will rebound very quickly. Because this is not a stock market bubble or a real estate, bubble or some kind of, thing where banks are going bankrupt. This is hysteria and panic over something where Democrats are like, yeah, we'll just congregate in lines of hundreds of thousands of people. 3 million plus people voted the other day. The Democratic Party's biggest hypocrites. They're the biggest hypocrites on the planet. But tell me, you have Trump is the president that Bernie Sanders wishes he could be. I mean, in 2016, if Bernie was talking about, if in 2016 Bernie Sanders won, and there was record low Black and Latino unemployment, record low unemployment, 6 million jobs created, household median income up, wages up, and he was bringing home Americans, tell me you wouldn't like that. Give me your thoughts below. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel right this second. $1 trillion President Trump is pumping into the economy, and he's doing a very good thing. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below. Ladies and gentlemen, Hillary Clinton's going to be nominee. Whether she takes a 2-second stay at Biden's vice president, who knows how it happens. Clinton will eventually become nominee. This will be the biggest political call of all time. Thank you so very much. Give me your thoughts below. Thank you. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel right